All right, Nifemi, what a day it is, and welcome to everyone who's joined us.
Absolutely, Dr. Amma, welcome. It's a World Day against trafficking, human trafficking, and I see a lot that Live Abundantly is doing alongside NAPTIP. I'm not sure you were able to join the walk, Dr. Amma.
No, I wasn't able to physically join the walk, but I'm always there in spirit. I'm always active. I've been doing a few other things, but I am absolutely thrilled that we have people here. And I know that the Lagos Command, what's my zonal commander, Comfort, will be joining us shortly. So that we can have a robust conversation. I know this one is entitled Japa 2, which I think is absolutely appropriate when you think about the topic of today. I know, Nifemi, you're about to say something about how I say Japa, right? Go on. Have your moment. I really want you to. I will get it. But you know, Nifemi,
I've gotten used to it now.
It's just one of those. You're used to it now, and I think they all are used to it. But you know, it is one of those days that when it comes up on the calendar is heavy on my heart, because I keep thinking, how do we address this issue of human trafficking that just has so many facades, you know, there's so many facets. That's the word I'm looking for. There's so many facets to human trafficking. And I don't know that any of us can fully answer it. But, you know, I think that the more we talk about it, the more we bring it to consciousness. Hopefully, people will begin to realize that nobody is immune to it. Because for a long time, people felt that it was the events of the downtrodden, which is not true in all reality. There's a lot of background noise. And Jerry, can you please switch off your audio if you're not speaking? It will help tremendously. Thank you. But, you know, you look at the situation in the world, you see the wars that are going on, you see the endemic that's going on, and, you know, the pandemic that we survived and still surviving because now it's endemic. And all of these factors are contributing to the Japa, the human trafficking syndrome. And then you start to look at how, because we become so digitalized, it's having such great effect in so many ways. I mean, there's a whole network that's able to use these platforms to hide underneath and do this dreadful sort of business, because it is a business for many people. It is a business. Moving people into different areas is considered a business. It is a cartel. We don't even have accurate figures. And at the same time, you have those who are trying to create technology to make it easier to apprehend people or to find people's location. So I'm very much interested in the conversation we're going to have today. And I can see Benga is smiling because he probably has questions that he wishes to pose to us today. So Benga, thank you for joining us and everybody else. And let's get started, Nifemi.
And then let's get started. Chylian Azuh is here. Jerry is also online with us. Benga Kimfenwa is for the Guardian newspaper. And I'd like Benga to kickstart with some questions he has for Dr. Amma in commemoration of the International Day Against Human Trafficking. You have the floor now.
Can Benga hear us? Yes.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my first question is just about, you know, this thing is actually like an annual ritual. So what's actually different in this year's event?
You know, Benga, that's a very good question. And it's interesting that you should use the word ritual. Because it's not the word that I will select, but I can see how you will perceive it in that way. And what makes this year different, as I alluded at the beginning of this conversation, is the magnitude of the complexity of our lives right now. You look at the wars that are going on around us. You look at the insecurity. You look at the economic crisis. You look at the pandemic, which has become endemic. And all of these are affecting the movement of people, knowingly or unknowingly. In our case, we're talking about those who are being trafficked, illegally moving, as you know, or those who think that they're going legally, but they're actually going illegally. But it is of great concern because now with the digitalization of the world, you have more openings, more avenues that are being used to move people. So you can go online and find out that you think you're applying for a job, but you're really putting yourself in harm's way. And the people that you think are employing you or going to employ you are actually going to traffic you, and you have no idea. So technology and the digitalization of the workspace of the world is making it even easier for perpetrators to carry out this movement of people, whether it's for organ transfer, as you have heard recently in the news in Nigeria, or sexual exploitation, as is going on globally, or forced labor, just to name a few. And it is very disheartening because technology, in a way, enabled us to come together and continue to connect during the pandemic. But that same technology is allowing people to move individuals underground and without much interference from others. You know, the entire network is going on online right before us. And they're able to communicate very quickly. They're able to move their monies very quickly. There's just a whole network that this digitalized, network has produced. But on the other hand, you have organizations, you know, the actor Ashton Kutcher in the US. For many years, he's been trying to figure out how you can track. And I know that the international bodies, the police bodies internationally, Scotland Yard, the FBI, they've been fine-tuning how they can track the movement of people. And then when you look at businesses, you have the supply chain. And even within the supply chain, you find that this type of forced labor is going on. So getting the transparency of the supply chain, which will then reveal where human trafficking is occurring, has become very important. So I hope I've answered your question, or perhaps it will lead to further discussions amongst us.
Yes, well, with what you've said so far, ma, will you say that the government and the stakeholders have done enough to stem this type of this issue?
No, not at all. Not at all. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface. Not at all. Think about it. We had an episode a few weeks ago about Japa. What is Japa? I don't remember the exact definition that Nifemi gave that day, but it's people running away from a situation, leaving a situation. Now, if you want to Japa and you don't have the right papers to emigrate, then you are going to go through human trafficking, human smugglers. That is illegal. And there is no guarantee of what you're going to meet on the other end. But people are taking advantage of the fact that people wish to leave wherever they're originally based for greener pastures. And they've come up with a very sophisticated system where you believe you're going for a legal job, even though you know you're not qualified for the job in many cases. You believe that what you're doing is legal, and you put yourself in a situation where you're trafficked. And that's the end of your life, because now you're indentured to others and you never know what's going to happen to you. Or you get trafficked because somebody wishes to get your organs, which is another form of human trafficking. And as you know, there's a recent case of, senator of some sort that was here in Nigeria who is in the UK dealing with this situation. Now, we don't know all the details, but there has been an accusation of trafficking. Moving a person for the purpose of taking their organs is human trafficking. And on this platform today, we've got Chylian and Jerry, who have been victims of human trafficking, and they have returned safely to Nigeria and have been able to put their lives back on the right track. Right? Wouldn't you say, Jerry? Jerry just got married. Chylian has a beautiful son and completed her degree, having left Nigeria and come back. So there are those who come back, thankfully, but there's so many who are lost at sea. And there are quite a few films that are out there now that are really focused on these kinds of activity and what is going on. So no, to answer your question, no, the stakeholders have not done enough. The government have not done enough. This is a global endemic, and it is really important that everyone come together and try and figure out, how do we stem this? What is it that we must do to become more vigilant, to become more aware, to become more educated, so that we can prevent this from carrying on?
Okay, man. Lastly, ma, what do you think is the best strategy to control this problem in Nigeria?
Well, as you know, Live Abundantly is not restricted to Nigeria. We're a global organization. This podcast is actually global. It's right now being featured on LinkedIn, so anybody can listen. And I think that we need to recognize that human trafficking is a global phenomenon. It's not unique to Nigeria. And for that reason, stakeholders globally must tackle this within their community, within their families that are trafficking their own members. That must be addressed. If you can address it at the grassroots with families, because out of desperation, they're trafficking their own members, and then within the community, within the state. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you start looking at businesses that are hiring people who have been trafficked because it's cheaper labor. They're looking for cheap labor. Then you're really going at it from multiple angles. I don't think the government can handle it. I mean, people are leaving Nigeria because of insecurity and lack of money and all of the economic reasons, social reasons, security reasons. But where are they going to? And who is moving them is the question. So it is beyond one conversation. And I do agree with you that it's time to find solutions. But I do think the solutions should start at the grassroots level. The government can't impose, even with all the laws that they have, it's still going on. And now with technology, it's so much easier to move people from country to country.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Benga, for those questions, enriching the conversation on this particular episode. There's a lot of talk about the use and abuse of technology and how it's contributing to human trafficking. I'd like to bring in Chylian and Jerry in on this conversation. Jerry, just how difficult do you think things are now for young Nigerians? Just recently, NLC embarked on a 2-day protest. Some group of senators attempted to impeach the president the other night. There's a lot of talk about an indefinite strike if Azuh doesn't call off its 5-month-old strike. Would you say that the society or the situation in Nigeria is even inspiring more people to Japa in the real sense of it?
Okay. Good afternoon once again, everybody. Good afternoon, Dr. Mr. Nifemi. Thank you for the wonderful question. I think it's enough reason for people to even leave the country, because where you pay a lot and you're not getting enough, and it will encourage people to go. You know, the last time we had this Japa season 1, and I said something. I said a lot of persons will want to even send their children abroad to to go and further their education when they know that as soon as they get there, they can get educated, and in less than 3 years, they are already graduates. So they will tend to send their children abroad to go and study. You know, I said last time, I said, if this awareness is not being taken to the grassroots, like Dr. said, I tell you, in the next 5-10 years, in the next decade, we are going to see a lot of students who will wake up and tell you education is a scam. There is no need for me to go to school. The ones that went to school, how many years did they go for a 4-year course? And you, the young ones who will be coming up that time, they will not be looking at it, okay, my brother went to school, and at the end of the day, instead of him going for maybe a social science course for 4 years, brother end up spending like 6 or 7 years. And the child will tell him so as well, like, okay, what is the need for me going to school? And that alone is a signal that will make people to be trafficked in the future. So I beg the federal government or those in charge of the Azuh strike, so please remove this Azuh strike from these children, because it's causing a lot of harm than good. So going back to your question, sir, a lot of people that traveled through the regular route, they are not well educated. A lot of them are educated. They try to get the visa, they try to get the passport, and they were unfortunate to get it. And because of the frustration and the way their family is, or the way the country is, or the economy is, they will have no choice than to go the irregular route. Like we do say, we are not saying that travel is an offense, it's your right, it's part of learning. But however, if you must do it well, if you must travel, you should travel the right way. Get all the necessary documents that you need to get so that you won't fall the victim. I tell you for free, this syndrome is not funny. The doctor said just now, he said Jerry is married, Chylian, has a son, and he's doing well. Out of the 90% or 100% of returnees that come back to this country, how many of them are actually doing well? Some of them have mental cases, some of them have challenges with it. Some persons, their family even rejected them even after they come back. They don't even know where to go back to, whether to go back to home, to go back to their village, or to go back to their friends. So you see, the economy alone is not even accepting them. There's still stigmatization, like, this person even travel. They deported him or her now. They'll be making jest of that person. So that alone will even want people to even say, let me even go, let me even leave the surface of these people so that I can come out a better person. But then it's not a yardstick for you to fall victim of being trafficked or to be a victim of irregular migrant. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, Jerry. Thank you so much for your contribution. I'll be with you shortly, Chylian. I'm just told that Mrs. Comfort Agboko has joined us, the Lagos Zonal Commander of NAPTIP. I'd like to take your reaction very quickly as regards the walk today and the commemoration of the International Day Against Human Trafficking. What precisely is the focus this year, and how are you reaching it?
Nifemi, good afternoon. Good afternoon to all of us in the house. Hope you are hearing me. Are you hearing me? Hello? You are not hearing me.
Clearly, yes, we can hear you.
Oh, you are hearing me?
Yes.
Today, we had a road walk on the 2022 World Day Against Human Trafficking that is coming up tomorrow, 30th of July 2022. And the essence of this road walk is to create awareness to the general public on how human trafficking can be stopped or reduced to the barest minimum. We started from our office at Ikeja GRA, went through police headquarters, under the bridge, came back through the GRA to the court and back to the office. with other stakeholders. And many stakeholders like Live Abundantly, Sought After, IOM, CPN, that is Child Protection Network, they turned up, just to mention a few of them. And they really supported us with all they could, like drinks, minerals, water, and small chops. We appreciate all our stakeholders, and we didn't take that support for granted. And you know, the theme for this year's World Against Human Trafficking is the use and abuse of technology. And we know that technology is the fact that technology is a blessing, it is also a challenge, because it is being used by traffickers to run their business. You know, technology helps us in doing our business, and trafficking is also a business to the traffickers. They use it for their own business by making sure that they recruit victims of human trafficking. They lure victims through their tricks, through their tricks and different forms of deceits into trafficking. But we also know that technology can be used positively as a form, as a tool for awareness creation. Like on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, awareness can be created to the general public on the antics of trafficking, the antics that can be used, the tricks that traffickers use to deceive and lure victims of human trafficking. So that is why the theme of this year is very important, and is very important at this time that some of our youth are being trafficked to different parts of the world, notably the Arab countries. So that is why the theme of this year is very relevant at this point and this time.
Indeed. We're hoping that the message is getting to those who need to hear it. Chylian, please talk to us quickly about how vulnerable you think people are years after you made that trade. Do you think that the conditions within the country has made or is making more younger people vulnerable to make this very dangerous trades?
Okay, thank you so much, Nifemi. Yes, I remember that the last Japa discussion, I mentioned that we need to get to the foundation. How did this thing start? And how is it going now? Is there a change? Do you think that if people are comfortable or they are seeing hope, for instance, I want to put it that way. Okay, so if I feel like that there would be change in a few months, I'm hopeful, I want to stay. But when there is no hope, when everything seems to get worse, for instance, I think it was 3 days ago, my mom was saying that things are really expensive for them back there in Delta. And I said the same here. It's getting really worse by the day. So if you look at the way things are, people are vulnerable. For me, I feel like even most of us who are working are also very vulnerable, because if you look at how much you're being paid, salary is not increased, things get really expensive. If someone sells the idea of migration to someone who doesn't have an idea of what human trafficking is, the person will jump at it. Students, for instance, I mentioned that there was a particular month last year when I did one survey to find out how they are coping in schools. Most of them didn't have accommodation. They were putting up with friends. Let those friends relate with cousins abroad. And then they tell them, please, if you have friends, gather them, I want to help. They would go. Some wouldn't even mention to family that they are traveling because they are vulnerable. There are people who can't afford 1 square meal at this moment in Nigeria. There are people who can't afford to pay their children's school fee. So if someone sells the idea of migrating irregularly to them, they won't think twice about it. They would take the option. So many negative things going on. Insecurity. If these things are not addressed, much more people will migrate irregularly. And for instance, I was talking about a friend who showed me a flyer of an advert for people to travel abroad within Africa to work. And the countries there, she was just telling me that these countries seem to be like Nigeria. I just simply told her that the trafficker knows that people will believe it's better over there. For instance, the insecurity is not as bad as it is here. If I come from a state in the north where they kill people regularly, and then someone says, let's go to Cameroon, for instance, I would think about the fact that I don't want to lose my family, I don't want to die. And then I'll jump on it. So the thing is, the situation of Nigeria is making people more vulnerable. Even the ones who've returned also are taking the option of remigrating. I heard about some of my friends they came back to Nigeria at the same time I did. I'm hopeful. I'm trying to fix things. Some of them are not so patient. A lot of them have gone back to Libya. I'm not praising them, but if the situation gets better, they wouldn't want to migrate the wrong way. It's because things are actually very bad that they are taking the option of irregular migration. So I feel like if things continue like this, much more persons will jump on irregular migration without thinking. Thank you very much, Nifemi.
Dr. Ama, Chylian is talking about
Yes.
how desperate young Nigerians are becoming. Dollar now exchanges for 710 naira. I was on the news last night when there was a breaking report about shootings near Zuma Rock in Abuja. There are apparent threats against government parastatals and schools. Government colleges are shut down in the Federal Capital Territory. Unity schools are shut down. Bandits are even threatening to kidnap the president of the Kaduna State governor. Some would say all of these developments perhaps are making it more difficult to convince desperate Nigerians not to travel irregularly. Do you think that the advocacy work is more difficult now than it was before?
You know, Nifemi, I know that you're going to focus on the situation in Nigeria because that's where we all are currently. But I always want us to look at this on a global scale. Wherever you are in the world, where there is unrest, where there is insecurity, where there is extreme poverty, where the economic and social, political, cultural pressures are heightened, you're going to deal with this. Think about the people in Ukraine that have had to leave their countries to go elsewhere. Many of them probably going to have to deal with a high level of trafficking, because how are you going to move from country to country until you find a place where you can settle? In Nigeria, everything you've said so far is what we've heard, and it's believed to be the situation. If you cannot give people the basics that they need to feel that they belong in a country, they're going to believe that going elsewhere is a better situation for them. The reality is, it likely is not. Because if you don't have the right papers to exist in those countries, then you put yourself into a situation where you will be exploited. If you're not knowledgeable to decipher that the advertisements that you see in the news, on social media, that those advertisements are not legitimate, they're too true to be realistic, you're going to fall victim to it. If somebody is advertising for a nurse and you're not a nurse, why are you putting up your name? Why are you submitting yourself? If somebody is telling you that you're going to be a nanny and you do not have the qualifications to travel, you don't have the papers to travel, Why would you submit yourself to it? If they're going to get, oh, they say, oh, they promised us passports, blah, blah, blah. The reality is they promise you the same passport they've used with countless other people to move them abroad. And they're moving you into a situation where you become indentured. I think it's 79 or 80% of those who were trafficked are forced into sexual exploitative situation. That is the global figure. And we don't have accurate numbers because people are leaving countries irregularly. They're being transported by land and in all forms of way. You just don't have an accurate figure. 20% of the people who are trafficked are children. We have a critical issue globally, not just in Nigeria, because the same situation exists in the United States, in the United Kingdom, in Europe. Homeless children, street children. It is so easy to move street children because nobody has an affinity for them. Nobody knows them. They don't belong anywhere. They're desperate to survive. You can see the children begging on the streets, even here in Nigeria. And you know there's somebody behind them that's forcing them to beg so that they can collect that money. That is human trafficking. You see it every day. And yet nothing is being done. But you can see their minders are watching them to see what they're collecting, if they're standing up. And there have been stories of people going abroad and being maimed as a way that they can earn or be given more money. So really, you have to look at the situation globally. The pandemic, which is now endemic, forced people into situations where they were trafficked. You've got the endemic who is forcing people desperately to get out their situation. You've got wars and you've got insecurity and unrest that's making people more vulnerable. You've got a heightened inflation that's going on. And even before inflation, it was difficult for people to survive. So there's a level of internal trafficking that's even going on in this country where people are saying, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to take your daughter, I'm your relative, I'll take your daughter to Lagos and they will work. You think your daughter is working in Lagos with your relative and your daughter has already been taken out to another country. These situations are so tenuous, but it's based on certain factors that are occurring that are beyond people's control. And they're simply trying to survive. And I know that I brought this up and everyone has sort of let it pass through. Trafficking is done by those who are in positions of authority. And I have mentioned the situation that's going on right now in the UK that is not getting the attention that it should. You have a senator that's being accused of trafficking a child, or we don't know how old, is it a child, is it an adult, to the UK for the sole purpose of organs transfer, organ donation. That's occurring right here in Nigeria. It's occurring globally. So we need to come back and make people accountable for what they're doing. But those that are doing it are in positions of authority. And they are now using technology to ease the way in which they move people along. And to the average person looking, oh, it looks fine. But if you look carefully, you will recognize that it is human trafficking and it needs to be addressed. So all stakeholders, that includes the people in the cities, in the towns, and the villages, parents need to understand what they are doing to their children and what is occurring within the communities and start to address it. If you're waiting for the government, you're going to hear that the government's hands are tied and the government doesn't have the money and the government is overwhelmed. I'm not saying anything that you don't know already. So it has to be addressed, but it has to start from the grassroots, and people need to report those who are doing it. If you know somebody that's doing it, then speak up and report it. Don't condone it. Don't close a blind eye and say, oh, well, what else is a girl there for? But to use her body to make money. That's not what girls were born for, to use their bodies to make money. And we shouldn't be taking people's organs. So you've got me on a topic that I'm really very passionate about. And I know that we're talking about commemorative. I don't call it commemorative day. I call it a day of awareness, of heightened awareness. But this awareness must continue beyond today. It's not coming one day to talk about it. It's speaking about it every single day. Every single day should be human trafficking day, where people become aware and people take actions even within their small locale. Take care of the people in your community. Nobody should go hungry. Nobody should be starving, and nobody should be sold or given away as if they're a commodity for others to abuse.
Absolutely. Talking about awareness, Jerry, I'd like you to speak to the red flags to look out for, particularly now that attention is turned to the use and abuse of social media. Dr. Amma mentioned the case with the former Senate president in the UK. That case is still in court, but already Nigeria has confirmed that the victim, the alleged victim involved, is not a child, is 21 years old, and they will wait for the court to decide if there was indeed a case of human trafficking that can be proven, that can be proved in that court. But speak to us, Jerry, about the things that potential, because every desperate Nigerian is a potential victim. Everyone who is seeking greener pasture, people are talking about tech, get a skill in tech, and there are a lot of jobs out there for you, particularly in fintech. So everyone is looking out for opportunities. What are those red flags to look out for? And then you can tell that, oh, this is trafficking. This is not legitimate.
Okay, thank you once again, Mr. Nifemi. Quickly, yesterday we had a program on this same irregular migrations and flags that need for people to be aware. And I discovered that in Lagos here, for example, the people are already aware of the right thing to do. When you take this awareness to the rural community, you discover that a lot of persons will keep falling victims because they are not even really aware of the tools they are using. Yesterday in Ibadan, when we did a walk in three markets, Oguntoye, Eleyele, and the Dugbe market around the cinema, if you see what people were saying, people were giving us contact. I was so surprised. I was so shocked. Like, is it that you people have not been hearing what we've been saying? And they said they don't know. It means that this grassroots, they don't know that you still need visa to travel. This grassroots do not know that you need a passport to travel. They believe it's only the rich man that travel, and that's the reason they are falling victims. So some of the red flag you need to know is that when somebody tells you that I can take you abroad with less than $1 million or like 300,000, just know not them be that. If somebody tells you I need a nanny abroad, can you bring some? Do you have a friend that can come along with you? So I will help you, because you are a young girl. I just like you. I don't know what makes me to like you. Not them be that. If somebody take you, maybe you go to church and pastor or your imam tell you your destiny is not in Nigeria, your destiny is abroad. I just see this vision now that if you go to abroad, you're going to make it. That is a red flag. Not them be that. If somebody now say, have you heard about this great man? Because if you go to somewhere in Lagos or some of our bridges, you see work in Dubai, 300,000, work in Germany, 200,000, work in Canada. Canada and Australia is not being used now. Work in Canada, 400,000 in a month. Those are red flag. You need to run from such publications. They are not real. They are not true. When you get there, you'll not begin to see the real thing that we are talking about. I give a quick example. A guy I saw an advert post to work in Australia. He stays in Ikorodu, very close to me, and he went to apply. When he got there, he said, you want to travel? He said, yes. They said, are you sure you want to travel? He said, yes. Do you have international passport? He said, no. So, okay, don't worry. Our company, we are capable. We help you get your passport. We help you get your visa. We help you travel. We'll pay every logistics that you need to get. And the guy was very, very, very happy. Like, Jerry does this. At the end of the day, they said before he is going to travel, that he's going to work for them for 1 month before he will travel. That is a product that they sell, that is a herbal drugs that he will sell. When the guy opened the herbal drugs, it was not even herbal drug, it was weed that was inside. And the guy started selling that weed from one ghetto to another. Now, the plan was he wants to travel. And he was not aware of, the right way to travel. Now, this big company with big name come and tell the person, I can help you travel, I will pay all your bills. I'm trying to bring this analogy so that people will get to be aware of the signs they need to watch out for. It's not every job that you go that are really worth it. Today, as I speak to you, the guy has applied for this job since last year. Today, as I speak to you, the guy is a professional weed seller. You see, so that's the reason why people need to watch out for.
I think we lost
even
Jerry.
now on
Okay. Jerry.
Instagram. I see.
I think we've
Jerry,
lost
I think
Jerry.
there's a break. Let's hear. We'll get back to you, Jerry. Just hold on for a minute. Perhaps your network can get better. I see that Chylian's hand is up. Chylian, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So just to add to what I want to address two things, just to add to what both Dr. Ama and Jerry has said. Dr. Ama asked a question: why do people take the option of irregular migration when there are other better options due to the fact that they are in difficult situation? And then the question still links to what you asked Jerry. So I feel like one of the reasons why they are taking such options is because of what the traffickers tell them. For instance, they sell you very cheap options, and they make it look very easy. They make it look like you're not going to have any struggles. So by the time they are selling these options to the people and they have very strong evidence and facts that I don't even have in most cases. For instance, they want to sell to you an idea of someone who had traveled. I was the one who pushed the person. I did everything. I was the one who processed it. They have very strong evidence. By the time the victim sees this evidence, the person is like, oh, wow, if this can happen for this person, why not me? So the person is not actually looking at any other negatives. I would also talk about the fact that they don't give you time to check anything. So I'm coming to what Jerry was talking about. So if you see that they are hurrying you, they are rushing you, know that those things it's not true. Sometimes they will just tell you, you just need to prepare in the next 3 days. I have all the documents, everything is set. Once you see that they are hurrying you, they are rushing you to prepare and follow, know that there is something up. It's not real. And I've realized that most times they do these things even for people who are going by flight, by air. So that means that they are even hurrying you. Meanwhile, you're supposed to have a process where you go to NIS. They don't allow you do that. They don't allow you do the process of going to the country's embassy. They tell you they have it all figured out. They are rushing you. Run. Nigeria is hot now, as if there is fire burning somewhere. Once you see such a thing, know that once it's easy and there is rush, know that it's a no-go area. Don't even try it, because there is something fishy the person is trying to hide. And then also, if you have information to ask them, maybe some questions to ask them, and you're trying to ask those questions, and the person is trying to avoid answering you, red flag. Most times, they try to find a way not to even allow you ask the question. And then also, if they tell you that nobody should know about it, maybe if you're saying your family and the rest of them, you want to tell them, red flag. In most cases, they use the fact that we are Africans. You know that in Africa there is juju. The moment you tell anybody, you're done for. Just when you start seeing such signs, know that the person has skeleton in his cupboard. He's hiding something. He doesn't want you to see that thing or even expose him. They are trying to protect their niche. So in such cases, people have to be very, very careful. When you see these signs, clear sign of the fact that you're going somewhere you might not be able to come back from. I came back, but there are a lot of people who are back there that I'm not sure would have access. We are trying to even, in most cases, we are trying to even support some of them so that they can come back. But we have still a lot of persons who in several countries cannot come back. Thank you.
Indeed. Oh my, so it's been very exhaustive, a lot of information in one piece. I'm sure that the red facts are clearly noted by everyone who is watching online and our listeners on our podcast platform. Let's turn our attention to the Lagos Zonal Commander of NAPTIP as we begin to wrap up this session. It appears that NAPTIP has a huge task ahead, particularly seeing the condition within the country and indeed globally, the concerns of many citizens of the world and many legitimate reasons why people want to leave their country to a better place. But I would ask you two questions. If NAPTIP and other sister agencies have taken these efforts at educating people online, where most of the human traffickers are, and is there also a platform of fact checking with NAPTIP where someone who is considering working with an agent or who is considering leaving the country can confirm if those they are dealing with are legitimate with your agency?
Thank you once again for having me. The point is, there is a class certificate now that NAPTIP is giving for those that want to travel or agents that want to sponsor people abroad. There is a website now. It's just coming up. And NAPTIP is saying, if we have those that are going for sporting activities, those that are going for vacations, and those that that want to go for one visitation or the other, NAPTIP is working in collaboration with other stakeholders, like Ministry of Labor, the Migrant Resource Center under Ministry of Labor. One can cross-check with NAPTIP, and also one can make calls at any time to our hotline, that is 627, for some verifications. NAPTIP is not keeping quiet because we know this season where we are now in Nigeria, that is a delicate season, it's a delicate period, it's a trying period for everybody. And when you talk to our youth, even during the course of creating awareness, what they tell you is they want to Japa, But what we always tell them, counsel them on is, if they want to Japa, if they want to travel abroad, let them travel in a regular way, not in an irregular way. Thank you.
I'll take some final comments from Dr. Amma as we begin to wrap up this conversation. Dr. Amma.
Well, Nifemi, this has been a very invigorating and informative conversation. And I'm so glad to hear new insights from Jerry and Chylian, because they are at the grassroots levels. They're the ones who are actually going into areas where nobody has a chance to go and communicate with people and share information. The one thing that has become absolutely clear when we're talking about human trafficking, irregular migration, but specifically human trafficking, is that it is a borderless network. There are no borders. The borders have been eliminated. Regardless of where you are in the world, they have managed to remove the borders. They have managed to figure out how they can move people. You know, very often in Nigeria, you're talking about, you know, people crossing the desert and going to Libya or going to the Arab world. But are you aware that there are Africans being trafficked that are going in through South America? It has become a borderless phenomenon. And the perpetrators of this cartel have figured out how to survive and run their business underground. The digital platform that is available right now in many ways protects them, because it is an intricate web of people selling, moving people like any other commodity. Really, people have become a commodity. We don't even have the exact figures. It is estimated and still being said is $150 billion industry. It's a cartel, but this cartel is sophisticated, even more sophisticated than a drug cartel, because in this case, you're moving individuals, not drugs. So it is important on an international level that we begin to look at how we can address this. I've mentioned that is in the foods, in the supply chain. We've mentioned that people are being given passports and they're able to travel with ease, except when they arrive at their destination, they suddenly have absolutely no identity. They're stripped of those passports, they become indentured slaves. That's forced labor. And they could be in those situations for years to come. Some get sold, some get damaged, you know, through surgeries that they're forced into. But I do think that we need to understand and understand the magnitude of this borderless enterprise. And that is why the emphasis this year is on the digital, the technology, the way that you can move from place to place with ease, the way that you can hide your money, the way that even governments cannot even track who is being moved, who is moving where. And we have to address that internationally, locally, grassroots. It's constant back and forth. My most concern is for the children, because 20% of those being trafficked are children. And those children have no identity. And they're living their lives in a traumatic state. And at the end of the day, we have no record of how many survive, don't survive, and they're completely lost to their families and communities. So let's remember this. 71% of the people trafficked are women and children. 29% are adult males. The disparity is enough for us to begin to see this issue must be addressed head on without reservation. I think that we have lost Nifemi, so I'm going to continue this interview or this podcast. Chylian, what are your final words as we get ready to close? Is Chylian there? If you can turn on your camera and give us your final words.
Hello, doctor. Okay, so my final words would be keep yourself safe. In most cases, people don't pay attention to things they are supposed to pay attention to. I was a victim of that. I didn't pay attention to checking information, getting relevant information about anything. I was just paying attention to school because I was in school at the time when it happened. And so if you start paying attention to the relevant things, as at then, I didn't even like the news. I mean, if they turn on the TV in the house, once it's news, I walk away because everything seems to be somehow. So where would I have gotten information about human trafficking? I didn't even have an idea. Someone was saying, so you didn't know about Edo girls. I didn't know about Edo girls travel. I knew nothing about that because, of course, as at then I was so focused on getting a degree. It's important to get a degree. It's important to get a good life. But as you're fighting to get that, ensure to get information about almost everything. The world is growing fast. Digital. I learned from reading one of UN's documents that currently they can't even trace anything about human trafficking online because these guys are smart enough to delete. They know the language that was used by UN is they use the dark space to hide this information. They know how to go about it. And recently I also saw, would I call it, what's it called, an app that sells human beings. So they go to local communities, get their victims, upload them on that app or on that particular space. People buy them and then they ship whoever you want to you. This is inhuman. It hurts. I was upset when I saw it, but then I felt like if people are actually informed about the things they do, they wouldn't be in such situation. So I feel like the people who are actually being so, I mean, if someone wants to take a video of me, I would ask you why. I would want to know, why are you taking a video of me? What do you need it for? But these people are not informed. So you need to stay safe, be informed, keep your family safe, and keep everyone around you safe. Very vital. The world is growing fast. We can't keep track of everything they are doing, but we can keep ourselves safe. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you very much. We have two comments from LinkedIn, and I would like to share these comments. The first one is from Juliana Massey. And Juliana says, absolutely, the challenges of street children is growing daily. The unfortunate futuristic scenario is great security challenges glaring at the world. The developing world will be the first sufferers, but the developed world will be affected too. I absolutely agree, Juliana. I've always said that this is affecting every single person. Nobody is immune. So whether you're in the developed world or emergent economy or whatever, however you wish to describe it, this is a pressing issue. Thank you. And then we have another comment from Ronald Robinson. And he said the social media platforms must be used for educational purposes and development of human nature. Yes, we need to pay attention to what's going on social media because the traffickers are very astute and they have cleverly figured out a way to use social media to advertise, quote unquote, their services or to seek services and then monetize it. So when you monetize those services, it's a violation, and we know it's going on. Ronald also went on to say, we must stop the abuse and misuse of power over those less fortunate. It starts at the top. We continue to promote peace and unity throughout the diaspora. Yes, we should. I know that we like to think that it starts at the top, but it's one thing here. We have to have it go both ways, in my opinion. Whilst we're trying to start at the top to stop things, we also need to start at the grassroots to educate people. It is time that this become a topic in schools. We need to start educating our children in schools to understand the dynamic of human trafficking because it is everywhere. And it is not, nobody is immune to it. Anyone who is not paying attention can go through the experience of human trafficking. You will have people coming online and saying, oh, if you perform this sexual act on television for me right now, I will send you money. Oh, if you can come here and meet me at this place, I'll give you some money and you can just come for a party. All of these are elements, subtle elements of human trafficking. And I do think that it's time that we become more vigilant. Jerry, what are your final words as we close this episode? Thank you.
Okay, my final word is what I want to say. If you see something, say something. And the reason why we are not saying it is because that's the reason why the reason why we are not saying it is because we are scared of it. Nobody wants to come out of their shell. So when somebody tells you and you see that that thing is coming closer to you, you can say it out. If you say it out, you will get help. So if you see something, say something. So that's the hashtag we are coming out with now, so that the grassroots also can start saying it and saying it out. I believe if we start with this, we are going to get straight down to the grassroots, and the issue of human trafficking will be reduced, even as it's reduced in the urban, to be reduced in the rural environment. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So if you say something, say something. That's a very good hashtag. Let's continue the work at the grassroots. And as Ronald said, let's also go from the top. You know, my thing is that there's so many policies out there, but how many of these policies are being enacted? You know, the rules and laws, but somehow the perpetrators, because it's a cartel, have found a way around it, and they continue to cause traumatic experiences to other human beings. I just want to say thank you to Jerry and Chylian, and of course, to Comfort from the NAPTIP command, the zonal commander. We thank you. We appreciate your work. To Benga, who was here, but we've lost the connection, from Guardian. Thank you for being part of this discussion. And of course, to Nifemi, our moderator. We're very glad to have this platform. We continue to put social topics out there, social workplace topics, the topics that people want to talk under the table. We're going to put it on the platform so that people can speak and give voice to it. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And this episode is broadcast live. It is available on LinkedIn. Please feel free to share and keep it going. Let's get the conversation going. It cannot just be one day. It must be continuous. And I just have a message here from Comfort. She said, my final words are that our youth are creative and internet savvy, but they must be careful not to fall prey to the baits of traffickers, the baits that traffickers have online. We need everyone to join and help make a difference. Thank you very much for those final words, Comfort Agboko. I appreciate you all, and we look forward to the next podcast. This has been a Thinking Reimagined production. Thank you very much, and you be well.
Thank you, Doctor, for a wonderful time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Namaste.
Bye-bye. Namaste. Bye-bye.